One of the questions that I see popping up quite a bit lately is, what is third party? What does third party mean? What are third party toys, action figures? What do they consist of? Who makes them? What exactly is it that they're doing? Some people are not familiar with it, but there are multiple companies, third party companies, who make Transformers. There are a couple of third party companies who make G.I. Joe action figures. Third party is someone who is not associated with the original company that produces these figures, these toy lines. Like Hasbro makes G.I. Joe. A third party toy company would be like Black Major Toys or Red Laser's Army. You have great looking figures like this based on an original Hasbro figure, but with a totally different paint scheme as an homage to an Action Force figure. This is Sky Captain from the Space Force. But anyway, one of the things that third-party manufacturers are doing for the collector community right now is they're bringing new figures to the market in the classic O-ring style. A lot of collectors I see saying things like O-ring or nothing. I don't want modern's junk or whatever. They have a fierce loyalty to the O-ring construction style of G.I. Joe figures, and that's the style that the third-party Joe makers are making. It's the O-ring style of figure, just like the classic ones that we grew up with in the 80s, and various different color schemes, like Black Major Toys, for instance, will take an existing style of figure and apply a completely different color scheme to it that will go along with a sub-team theme. Like, give me a second here, let me find a couple figures. So just a couple of quick examples here. One of the Black Major Toys figures is the V2 Snake Eyes. And this particular one is done in, he is a Cobra Invaser done in Python Patrol Deco. So it's expanding a sub-team. Here we go, and he comes with a yellow timber and yellow accessories. So, but the figure is molded in gray. And these are not cast. These figures are injection molded in a factory in China. That's another thing about what I consider to be third-party factory customs, because they're actually having these figures somewhat mass-produced in a factory in China. Here we have an Alley Viper that's also done in the Python Patrol color theme. So these are third party. Same molds that we're used to, same O-ring construction, and just in case someone doesn't know what O-ring construction is, the figure is composed of multiple small pieces that are riveted together, and the main torso has a post inside with a rubber O-ring that goes around that and into a hook down here in the waist. That's what ties everything together and keeps him solid, but still allows for posability. So, third-party toy makers. And I differentiate third-party from custom makers, because you have people who are taking some of these figures and some other, like, older figures, and repainting them, and it's a one-off, or it's a one-shot, or they may even be molding and casting a very small number of pieces for a custom figure, but that is a custom. That is not a third-party toy, in my opinion. To be a third-party toy, it needs to be at least somewhat mass-produced and distributed. So here's another one. This is part of the Black Major Toys Ninja line. These were made off of a. They're based on a Storm Shadow figure, but this one has a completely different paint scheme. It's molded in green plastic, and it's a Python Patrol paint scheme. Here we have a Night Viper, and I'm sure that anyone who is into G.I. Joe remembers the Night Viper. Well, this guy is a Night Viper Snow Serpents division. He's molded in gray plastic, and he has a blue and white color scheme reminiscent of a snow serpent, which I don't have an original snow serpent handy to show you, but speaking of snow serpents, Black Major Toys is also making an assortment of snow serpents with different color schemes, and those are actually they're coming soon. I think some of them may actually already be in country. Yet again, low scale mass production in a factory. That is third party. I have a couple of third party Transformers, one of which being a huge Optimus Prime. He's like 12 or 13, I think he's 12 inches tall in robot mode. Larger scale than what Hasbro puts out. The quality's great. Another thing about the G.I. Joe figures, though, is that for several years we have not gotten from Hasbro any kind of an O-ring figure. So those who are loyal to the O-ring style, if they're not going third party, they're not getting anything new. And that's one reason why third party is so big, is because of the O-ring construction. They have a cult following. When you look at some of these other figures, like Red Laser's Army, this is one of the Argent 4. The Argent 4 figures were a tribute to the foreign Argent 7 figures, and I have another video where I discuss those. But both of these companies put out some really neat toys. Here's a Black Major Invaser that's Fun School India themed. And I have a video going over all of the Invasers as well. Here's a Red Laser Viper that is in the color scheme of the original Cobra Viper, but it's styled differently. The color is a little bit different than the original, and it has the removable helmet with the actual face. In my personal opinion, I believe that third party is the future of G.I. Joe collecting for a lot of people. I understand that the entire community is not going to like these, want these, because they're not Hasbro, they're not original, they're not G.I. Joe, and that's fine. But for those who enjoy the traditional O-ring style figure that we grew up with, third party is the way to go for you. There is likely something that one of these third party makers is putting out that you're going to like, that you're going to want. Here we even have Black Major Toys does some Red Shadows themed figures, and this is a Night Viper in a Red Shadows theme, and Red Shadows being the Cobra equivalent enemy of Action Force, which I won't get too deep into, but I mean Cobra had something to do with Action Force as well later on. But I love the fact that all of these figures are coming out. I could just... Hasbro's not doing anything for us. These guys are. These guys are putting product in our hands. They're collectible. People like them. There's a market for them. You have people that are doing all kinds of customization work with these figures. I myself, I make the clamshell packs. I make the cards for those, like I held up a minute ago, to display loose figures. And that's the thing about these third-party figures. These are not coming into the country packaged. They're not being sold and distributed packaged like an original Hasbro item would. Let me see here. Well, didn't mean to do that. So, buying G.I. Joes in the store, this is how most of them came. You had a blister on a card, and then the figure and accessories. Well, when you buy a Black Major or a Red Laser figure, what you get is a loose figure in a bag with its accessories. They're not doing any packaging or anything like that for them. I like to display my figures on with original Hasbro figures. I collect men on card. I like to display my figures in that manner. I like to hang them up. So I'm using a clamshell with a custom card back that I have made. That's just my preference for display. It allows me to take a loose figure and display it right next to my carded figures and have it look just as good. So, that's in a nutshell, that's what third party really is. It is someone who is not the original manufacturer manufacturing variations and new versions. This is a pretty old figure, but it's a Battle Android Trooper in a different color scheme. I think this is a Cobalt bat. I think that's what these were called. But it's different color schemes for things. And this other bat that I showed you here, I mean, this is a Red Laser's Army bat, Decepticon. It's a Shockwave bat, meant to be themed to go along with G.I. Joe and Transformers. It's just stuff like that you won't see. You won't see Hasbro putting any of this stuff out. You won't see Hasbro putting any of this stuff in our hands. The figure construction that they use now is completely different than what it used to be. I'll show you one here. Want to look at my nose there real quick? So, this is a modern figure. They look great. They're highly detailed. They're very articulated, fully posable. But a lot of people just don't like them because to them, they're not G.I. Joe. They're not the original Hasbro figures that we grew up with. And I think that the nostalgia aspect plays a huge role in that. A lot of people collect these figures because they enjoyed them so much as a kid, and they want to achieve that enjoyment as an adult. I know that with these, every time I get new ones in the mail or snag some new ones up online, there's a level of excitement there to it. If you look at Lidl Customs, that's another third-party maker. They did a run of figures and created this custom 6x9 card back for a group exclusive figure. And the card backs and things like that, I love this stuff. This is a very nice glossy card back. This is probably on 14-point print, which is about the same card stock that I use for the custom card backs that I put in clamshells. But there's a huge aftermarket community out there inside the G.I. Joe community, inside the G.I. Joe collector community. You have customizers, you have third-party makers, and I honestly believe this is the future of collecting for those who are most interested in the O-ring style of figure. Hasbro's just not going to do it. I believe that if they were going to, that they would have released Generation 1, like some 1982 or 83 reissues of the original 82 and 83 series, like they did with Transformers. Hasbro's putting out G1 reissues of a bunch of Transformers and selling them through Walmart, and they're all right. They're cool. They're priced a little bit high, but if you're a Transformers collector and that's something that you want, you're gonna buy them. Just like if Hasbro were to release, if they were to reissue all of the G1 G.I. Joe figures, I'd buy all of them. I'd probably buy multiples of them just to hang up and keep, you know. I love G.I. Joe stuff, and it just seems like Hasbro has let us down. And they did this before. They've done it multiple times before. Even if you look back into the 60s and 70s, they stopped making G.I. Joe for a period of time in order to reboot the line, and they made it something completely different. And at one point, they scaled him down to an 8-inch tall figure, and I think that it was about 8 inches tall. Originally, it was 12 inches, and then they scaled it down because of production costs to like an 8-inch figure and called it Super Joe. And there was a lot of stuff with that they could have done. A lot of stuff they did, but I think they could have done more. You know, that's like at one point we had, in the modern era, somewhat modern era, you know, you're looking back at a couple decades ago now, but we ended up having a Sigma 6 line, which was an 8-inch tall action figure. I have a bunch of them, love them. I'm going to make some videos on them as soon as I can get them out of storage. I've got space cleared up now, and we'll be able to put these guys on display, and I'm pretty excited about it because I do love those figures. They have a very small following, and it's because of the scale. The Sigma 6 line had a 2-inch scale that wasn't posable, and an 8-inch scale that some people just thought was too big. So it seems the right formula for G.I. Joe is this size right here, the 3.75 or 4-inch figure. The modern figures are 4 inches. They're compatible with the Marvel Legends series that was out. I think most of the Marvel Legends figures are 6-inch now. I don't collect them, so I really don't know a whole lot about them. But, you know, we move back to third party giving us what we like and what we want. Yeah, it's something made off of an existing figure mold. You've got plenty of troop builders, people that want to build armies and make displays and do photography with them and dioramas. There's an endless amount of stuff that you can do with these figures. And personally, I don't need a bunch of the same one. I don't army build because I'm just going to make a nice display to have one of each figure. So I hope that gives a little bit of an insight into what third party is and what third party means. If there's any more questions or anything that I can answer, just feel free to comment on the video and I'll be happy to answer. I'll be happy to expand in another video or whatever I can do to help you out with the third party questions or you know, anything in general. So be sure to hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more videos. Yo, Joe.